Okay, let's run.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
It's a quest. It's a quest for fun.
Well, The Rock says, why don't we just cut right to the chase?
Okay, now he wants to get together. Well, he wants to talk.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends about me.
It's showtime, folks!
What are you?
I'm...
That's strange. Greetings and salutations. Welcome to And I Quote, the weekly show where we introduce you to content creators of all shapes and sizes that join us from any and all corners of the nerd universe. We find out more about them by taking your questions. I am your host, Ryan of Nerd Culture, and our guest on this episode is a very dear friend of the show and the Nerd Culture channel. Please welcome dark fantasy indie author David V. Mammina to the stage. Hello, David. Welcome in. How are you?
Hello, hello. I'm doing very well. I love that intro every time. I don't get tired of it.
Oh, we're happy to hear that, good sir. Yeah, our good friend, actually, Josh Bauer of J. Bauer Art on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter is the one who put that intro together for us. So our hats, again, are off to our good friend Josh Bauer of J. Bauer Art. Check him out. He's a great indie artist, and he's also located in the state of Florida. He's currently doing a convention this weekend at, I believe it's called Spooky Empire. So make sure you check him out there. He's got great stuff there. We love you, Josh. You're the man. Without any further ado, if you have any questions for David V. Mammina as we go throughout the course of this episode, by all means, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. Our producer is going to be monitoring it as we go throughout the course of the show. And don't forget to like and share this with all of your closest friends. With that out of the way, David, what would you say were some of your favorite books and or writers growing up?
You know what? I didn't really get into reading until I was in middle school. I kind of grew up on Saturday morning cartoons and video games and stuff like that. I went to a Scholastic fair, and then there was a book there. Looked really cool. It was this really awesome vampire stalking people in the woods, and it was called The Child of an Ancient City by Tad Williams. And I said, "Huh? What's this?" And I started reading that, and I couldn't put it down. I was so engulfed in the way the storyteller was telling the story to a young adult. I actually was able to buy it again as an adult and read it again, and I got a lot more out of it now that I'm more learned in history of the Middle East and such, where the story took place. But J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, he's the father of fantasy for most people who understand how significant all of his impacts were, whether it's Dungeons and Dragons or any of the video games or books we've read. He's sort of the guy that put it all together. So I love his stuff. Andrew Sapkowski, who wrote The Witcher, those books really made it real for me. So that was real dark fantasy as far as I'm concerned. Um, but yeah, I love all that kind of stuff. I mean, um, the high fantasy I enjoy, but the darker fantasy sort of intrigued me because it was real. It was high stakes, in your face. So the world can be dark, and now fantasy can be dark too. So it was sort of an escape, but easier to relate to. So I love all that stuff.
All right. Impressive list, my good friend. What would you say are some of your favorite movies or TV series, past or present?
Hmm. Okay. Well, sort of present. Castlevania on Netflix is probably one of the greatest video game adaptations ever made. It is absolutely brilliant. Um, from the sound, from the animation, the story itself, the acting is great. Um, I have to say, anything that can make me feel is important. So for me, music that's added to a movie or a TV series should be done very carefully. It shouldn't just be everywhere. Everything that you see shouldn't have music to it. They should let the scene breathe, sort of thing. So I like TV shows and movies like that. Um, a movie that is really dear to my heart that not too many people talk about is The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. That one is fantastic because it takes place during the Native American Wars of the West, and it's a historical piece. But the storytelling and the pacing and the music, it's a masterpiece. The only reason it didn't win Best Picture or Best Album score or whatever was because it's up against Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. How you gonna beat that? But that's one of my favorites.
Wow, man, The Last Samurai. That's a callback. I haven't seen that movie in a good while. I should sit down and revisit that. That's a good one. I mean, Tom Cruise is, I mean, TC legend. Anybody? I mean, Tom Cruise is Tom Cruise. He's been around for decades and decades and decades. And the guy doesn't seem to age really, which I don't know. Maybe he's drinking the immortality juice that Keanu Reeves may have loaned him. I don't know. I mean, Keanu Reeves doesn't seem to want to age either. I mean, even though he's got that thick beard, he's got a bit of salt and pepper in his beard. It doesn't matter because the guy doesn't seem to age. So more power to you, both Keanu Reeves. You are the one, Neo. And, TC
Whoa,
legend, also known
yeah,
from the Mission Impossibles franchise, as well as many other characters. He's played dozens and dozens of different characters over the years. My gosh. But yeah, and also that movie was directed by Edward Zwick, who is also the director of the war movie known as Glory, with Matthew Broderick, Carrie Elways, and Denzel Washington, that got him the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. So Edward Zwick is very good at making period pieces.
clearly,
Is what
yeah,
I'm saying.
fantastic.
Yeah. Have you seen that one? Have you seen Glory?
Oh, many years ago, that was sort of hard for me to watch as a
Mhm.
kid because
Yeah.
I knew what was going on.
Hmm.
But as an adult, I think it has a much greater impact
Hmm.
on history
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, the acting and that was fantastic. And you know what? I don't usually like Matthew Broderick in a lot of things, to be honest. He's sort of just like Matthew Broderick. He's just him. But in that movie, for some reason, he sort of embodied that character.
Hmm.
And there were so many African American actors that really got their jumping point, I think, from that film that really made them like to show this is the range that they can go.
Yeah.
So
Denzel,
I thought that
Andre
was
Brower,
fantastic.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah,
A lot,
classic,
a lot of
classic.
other great actors were in there. I believe Sam Anderson was in there too as a corrupt captain or general, something like that. I mean, it's just look at the cast list and you'll understand what I'm saying a little bit later on. But good stuff. Good callback to Last Samurai. I got to revisit that. So, when did you decide to become a writer?
Yeah, good question. I was a kid, and again, my imagination is running wild in me, and I watch fantasy movies, fantasy shows, read the comic books, play the games. So my imagination would take root and say, "Look, I want to make something too. I want to make a fun story. What if this happened? What if that happened?" And I would just make a bunch of free writes. And I think 3 years ago, I found this envelope, like one of those manila envelope. Is that what you call them? And I'm like, what the heck is in this? And it's a bunch of my little free writes. And I said, wow, this is where it all started, just playing around. And really, what happened was I'm in high school. It's my last year in high school. I'm a senior, and I'm writing this story. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed where it was going. And my English teacher saw me writing. Mr. Sullivan was his name. And he sort of caught wind that I was doing something. And he said, hey, would you mind if I read a couple of pages? I said, sure. And whether it was garbage or whether it was really good, I don't know. But he inspired me and said, wow, this is great. You know, I would probably suggest this, that, and third, but you're doing a fantastic job. And that kind of praise and encouragement made me think maybe it's not just a free write anymore. Maybe this is actually something I believe in. And that work that he inspired me through turned out to be The Angels of Resistance, my first major book, winner of 8 awards. And that started with just an idea, but I got inspiration from my teacher, and that's all I needed, I guess. That's how important teachers can be, you know?
Oh yeah, all it takes is a little encouragement from a good source. So No, certainly nothing wrong with that. What also isn't wrong with that is that you are enjoying this episode of And I Quote with dark fantasy indie author David V. Mammina. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for him, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. Whether you were joining this live or on the replay, thank you so much for being here. I do greatly appreciate it. What would you say are some of the biggest rewards about being a writer?
Biggest rewards, I think, um, it's the ultimate escapism where you can create your own world if you so please, particularly in fantasy. Um, and you can give life to characters. And after a while, as you're giving life to them, they sort of give life to the story. I've said this before, and I think other authors might agree. After a while, the characters begin to pull the story where they want the story to go. I've changed the story mid writing quite often, thinking he wouldn't do this or she wouldn't do this. This would happen instead. She's bringing me here. So I love that. I love the idea of sitting down and creating a story. And what's great about that is now that I'm thinking, I've written in the weirdest places. I've written in the LIRR train. I've written in the mall. I've written at home. I've written at the doctor's office. I've written in all different places. You know, I bring my laptop because if the story is right there, ready to go, you got to get it out. And if you're not really sure where it should go, you shouldn't write anything. Just wait, let it simmer, figure it out. But I just love all that. And I said I would stop writing after I wrote Torn Asunder, my ninth book. And I said, I think I'm done. I'm going to try to mark it now. But a story was brewing in me and it kept calling. And I started to write some things down in an outline. And I said, here we go again. I got to do it. It's just in my blood. So the most rewarding thing is writing it and then sharing it with others. I love to see the reactions of other people when they read the story. Sometimes they look at me a little different. They're like, you wrote this? I forgot that you write this. Geez, you write this kind of genre or whatever. But um, I think that's it. And the awards were very helpful. I didn't think any of my books would win anything. I hope that they would because I was very um, proud of them. But that's another great reward to see that that other people who read thousands of books enjoyed my work and they thought there was something impactful in them, and that's pretty much the state of where I'm in. What I've learned after all these years of writing.
Oh, well said, my friend. Well said. On a different side of the fence, though, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges about being a writer?
Hmm. Biggest challenges. So back to the characters. Giving voice to the characters is very important. So um, as a man, you have to write all different kinds of characters into a book, and when you write women, you need to get into those roles. I remember when I was a kid watching The Little Mermaid, I said, "I am Ariel right now." Like I literally feel for this girl. Even I was a boy, I still felt. I feel her plight. I'm with Ariel. I remember watching Cinderella and thinking, "This is not fair." So a great story requires a great writer to give a true voice to every character. And I think that's a very difficult thing. And it shouldn't be glossed over. You really have to think about the diversity of the characters in which their background um, would essentially put them in. So if you're speaking from a character that has been through the ringer, he's war torn. You need to build this character to mingle in with the other characters you've written in, and how would those characters meet? What would be the challenges they'd face? So I think the characters are the most important thing. The other thing is the research. You have to, before you write anything, you need to research a lot, even if it's fantasy, because even fantasy has rules, and you can't break the rules of your fantasy world. The readers have to understand where they are, how this world works. Um, like, for instance, Star Wars, you know the rules of Star Wars. You understand, you grew up with them. And then when something happens and there's a new book or a new game or a new movie and the rules aren't matching, you say, "Well, what happened here? Well, what did you guys write?" You have to follow the rules of what we're doing, and that's any story. Like magic. Magic has different rules depending on the book you're reading. So Harry Potter magic is very different from The Witcher magic. They work differently. So it takes research. You have to understand the characters you're writing. And then I think the hardest thing, in my opinion, is getting the book out. So editing it, making sure it's as perfect as it can be, and then getting it out. And that is the toughest part. Every writer knows this. The marketing, the exposure, particularly if you're self-published. My heart goes out to you because I'm self-published and it's your voice. That's all you got. Your voice, and you pray that people see your work and they sort of see what's really great about it and they share it with others. So yeah, I think those three things are the most difficult.
I can definitely see where you're coming from with that. And you brought up the fandom that's been around for almost 50 years now, Star Wars. That deep rabbit hole, man. Whether it's the EU, the expanded universe, or the new canon that, quote unquote, Disney slash Lucasfilm has said, oh, no, no, no. All the stuff that came before, it's not canon. This stuff that we're doing since 2015, that's canon. And I'm thinking, well, you're kind of picking and choosing stuff from the EU because Thrawn was part of the original canon and not so much the new one, but you're still throwing him in there into Rebels, which is the animated series, and then he made his live action debut recently. Sorry, minor spoiler, in Ahsoka. So I don't think Star Wars follows their rules sometimes.
I
It's
agree.
Believe me, it's a deep rabbit hole that we could go down, which we don't have time for. But geez, I mean, here's how I look at it when it comes to Star Wars, and I've been doing this recently. And for those of you who've been doing this recently, if this is your first time getting into what are known as the Star Wars novels, feel free to let us know your thoughts on it because I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. When I read a Star Wars novel, whether it's a standalone or part of a trilogy, for argument's sake, I haven't read it yet, but let's say for argument's sake, Heir to the Empire is written by Timothy Zahn. And that was the first introduction we got to Thrawn. That was a three-book series. That was a trilogy, just like the Star Wars movies used to be. And that's fine. And then when you got a Star Wars standalone novel such as Lost Stars, written by the incredible Claudia Gray, I can take a Star Wars novel and read it and just enjoy it for what it is. I don't think about what's part of the EU and what's not part of the new canon because it's too much to think about. I enjoy the story for what it is. So if I like the story, I like the story. If I don't like the story, I don't like the story. It just depends on what the story is, how the writing goes, what the characters are. Is there any relatability with these characters? That's another big thing too. So yeah, Star Wars, they had rules, and then one time they threw the rule book out the window, and then they tried to bring the rule book back in. It's confusing.
Very.
It's very confusing. Just enjoy the books for what they are, honestly. Don't worry about what's EU and not canon. I really just, it's too much to think about. It's too much to be concerned about. Just enjoy the ride,
That's it.
you know?
Good advice.
Let's just do that together. Why don't we just do that? One big happy family, right? We can do that. Let's do that, Star Wars fans, because there's no negativity in the Star Wars universe, is there? No, wait, there is. But anyway, that's a story for another day entirely. So good stuff on that, my friend. So you brought up some stuff earlier, but I would like to draw some attention back to if we could for just a moment. So I'm going to bring up some of your works here. So torn asunder. How did this come about, and what's the elevator pitch?
Torn asunder. I've always been fascinated with the Knights Templar. I've always thought that was kind of cool. And when you're growing up, you sort of learn about the Knights Templar and how holy and how devout they were, but also how like horribly brutal they could be in battle. I thought that was kind of cool. So what intrigued me the most was the fall of the Knights Templar. Right? Even legend has it Friday the 13th gets its origin of bad luck because that was the date where King Philip decided they should be destroyed. Yeah, Friday the 13th. That's where the legend comes from. There's no actual proof of it, but it's a lot of theories that that's what it is. Um, but anyway, they also created the first banks. The banks where so what would happen is they would escort you to Jerusalem and back. So what you do is you would put your money safekeeping with the Templars in the bank where you're from, and they'd write you a slip. That way, you don't have to carry all your money on the pilgrimage because there's bandits and other terrible forces out there. So they'd escort you. And then when you go to Jerusalem, you can go to the bank there and take out the money that you put in wherever you were, whether it's in France or whatever. So I kind of like that idea. So the elevator pitch for this book is when the Knights Templar were destroyed and a lot of the knights were killed. This is a group of knights who were able to avoid that, and now they're working as an escort service to bring people back and forth from dangerous places. But this time, there's one young Muslim girl that they have to sort of sneak out because she's being hunted by assassins. And for the reason they're being hunted by assassins, they find out later, and they also find out that she's a lot more than what she seems. She's not just a young girl that they have to get out. They agreed to a mission that was far more serious than they thought. And these knights are just looking to sort of get back into the order, if possible, or to find each knight is looking for something from the past that they used to have. So they're sort of haunted by their past, but also they're fighting, struggling for a future. And this story really sort of brings them together, brings everything to the forefront. And they're very Christian, but they're bringing this Muslim girl somewhere, and they start to understand who she is and how lovely she is, but how I'll just say she has a certain power that she doesn't even understand. And when you find out what it really is, it all sort of brings the title "Torn Asunder" right in your face. So it's definitely one of my love projects.
Gee willikers, that's a heck of a sales pitch. Oh my gosh. Give me a copy now. Let me read this.
Thank you.
I am intrigued, good sir. And what else is intriguing is that you are listening or watching to this episode of And I Quote with indie dark fantasy author David V. Mammina. Don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for David, whether you're joining this live on the replay, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. And we thank you for being with us. Do greatly appreciate it. So that was one thing I wanted to draw your attention to. Also, something I want to bring to our viewers or listeners is the Angels of Resistance, if I'm saying that right. So I'm curious, how did this all come about? And once again, your elevator pitch was so good. Maybe you can top this one. I don't know. But what's the elevator pitch for this bad boy?
Well, believe it or not, this is the one. This is the first book that I wrote, thanks to Mr. Sullivan sprinkling that inspiration in me. This is a book for which I worked on, wrote it by hand. Um, Coffee was spilled all over it. I had to start over. I was saving it on discs. The discs got corrupted. I had to start over for the third time. I definitely said a lot of things and screamed a lot of things up at the heavens. Don't worry about that. So the third time I got to writing it, I said, this is going to be the best version I could ever do. And I wrote two parts of it, part one and part two. And what this story is about takes place in our future, far future from today. There was an apocalyptic event, some of it to our doing, um, and then some of it to just life. And there was a war, and then there was an asteroid. Let's just say that it didn't end very well for us. So fast forward about 1,000 years, and that's where this book takes place. And you think we're in the future, buildings and all this advanced technology. But what's happening is we're really starting over. So we're sort of back to knights in armor all over again. And what's happening is we're sort of split by our cultures, split by our races, our beliefs. Every kingdom is their own thing at this point, and that is the way they would try to avoid wars. But that doesn't bring people together, and it doesn't make peace. Well, what happens is a great demonic force springs from the earth, and we don't know what they are, who they are, where they came from, but they are sentient. They have a purpose, and the purpose is to wipe the floor with humanity and create their world. And we've heard this before. The evil villains trying to take over the world. But in this case, what's a little different is um, they sort of originate from where the world ended. They were waiting a long time to come back for this one moment. And there's a man, Michael Muriel. He's the star of the show, and he is the most powerful being on earth. He can move things with his mind, right? But he's a peacemaker. He tries to keep the peace. But as these creatures are inheriting the earth, he begins to realize he has some sort of connection to these things, and they seem to be following him and even idolizing him. So we have this beautiful hero who is using his destructive power for good, and yet this demonic army is essentially following him wherever he goes. So where he goes to make peace, the, these awful things follow him. So now what he's trying to do is there's this new reality. He's trying to blend the cultures of humanity together, the most powerful warriors and people, without causing their own destruction. And what he has to do is make peace really quick. To we have kingdoms that hate each other. They when they're together, it's war, and that's the end of it. And you'll find out why. But they have to work together. If they don't work together, then nothing matters. They're going to be destroyed in the most gruesome way possible. So it's really a story about what is humanity? What does humanity mean, right? And how do we work together in the face of such awful tragedy that affects all of us? And the more you get to know this demonic force, the more you start to realize they have personalities, they have goals, and there's a reason they're there. And the big key is, how do we stop them? What's their weakness? Where do they come from? With everything that's at stake. And it's an epic dark fantasy. It's a read. It's over 600 pages, but it reads like 200 pages. So it's like having a movie in your hand. You're seeing it as you're reading it. That's how I wrote this. So you can feel like you're a part of this epic.
Wow. Good point, because I just finished reading not too long, a few days ago, if almost a week ago now. I read the book Lost Stars by Claudia Gray. That was 551 pages. And I'm not used to, and let me be perfectly clear. I prefer my stories to be to the point, don't beat around the bush too much, like between 250 300 pages, but I know every writer is different, every story is meant to be different, and I get that. But I prefer things to be like a, nice, good, well, respectable sized cheeseburger, not a Big Mac, not a Royale with cheese, not so many other layers. But I got to tell you, if I can read 551, you could pretty much bet your bottom dollar I can read a 600-page novel, especially when it's called The Angels of Resistance. I mean, gee whiz. I got, I got the songs playing in the back of my mind. I'm probably thinking of Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas. I don't know. Some other songs that resemble that, I don't know. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. But I got to tell you something, man. If you've been practicing these sales pitches for X amount of time, you're doing a darn good job of it. Because quite frankly, after hearing about these two different books, by the way, which are Torn Asunder and The Angels of Resistance, I mean, the reaction to that is simply this.
Yes! That's awesome!
Oh my god.
I mean,
Of course you would do that. That's great.
I got to give you props where it is, man. You're knocking it out of the park here. I mean, so says your chalice that you're drinking from. Gee whiz,
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I love my chalices, man.
is that what's is that a wolf or a dog or something?
This
What
is
is
a
it?
white wolf. Yeah.
A white
White wolf
wolf.
chalice. It's one of my favorite things to drink from. It's just water,
Okay.
but you could easily just take this out and sort of clean it. You
Ooh,
put it back in. It's perfect for like wine, you know. But
nice.
yeah, I like stuff like this.
That's a cool
I'm
looking one,
extra
by the
that
way.
way. What's up?
That's a really cool looking one you just showed us. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Thanks
that's
a
really
lot. Yeah,
nice.
I'm extra in everything. I think life is meant to be enjoyed, so you may as well enjoy it in your best way.
Yeah, I can totally dig that. Maybe someone who's watching or listening to this can understand where we're coming from with that. Now, to fast forward towards what is known as the present times,
Yes.
this one right here has been getting a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of buzz on and off social media. So I'm just curious, what exactly are we looking at here, and what's the elevator pitch for something known as Death or Valentis?
Yeah, this one snuck up on me, and I had to write it down. It this is an interesting one. This is actually it's about Valentis. He's the character holding the skull. He is a villainous figure. Uh, make no mistake, he's a necromancer, so he can raise the dead. Very dangerous human being, but he doesn't seek to be dangerous to everyone. He doesn't want the world. He's not that kind of guy. He's actually a detective who can raise the dead and sort of ask the dead questions. So if it's the victim, what happened to you? Who did this to you? And that's it. Crime is solved because the undead can only tell the truth. So he's sort of the most pivotal detective you'd need if there was a murder or if there was a criminal that died. To find out motivations, all you got to do is call Valentis. However, as you learn in the story, he has a moment that in which he snaps. It happens when he goes to his childhood home and he gets disillusioned by how the home looks now, and he decides it would be a good idea to take it over. And he decides to raise the dead and to take it over. And he is thwarted. So what's happened now is um, he's in a prison, of course. There has to be justice, but people come calling because Valentis is far too important and too powerful. And what happens is they need him to actually go on a very deadly mission to rescue the very person who put him in prison. He is asked to rescue his nemesis. And he finds this very intriguing because the cult that has her, his nemesis, he can't understand how they could have gotten her. She's very powerful. So really, what's interesting is he agrees to go on this mission to rescue his nemesis, but he really wants to know how this happened, who they are. He doesn't really care about her. He had claimed vengeance on her a long time ago, uh, but he just wants to get out of the prison. So he has a lot of ulterior motives. But as he goes on in this mission, he starts to realize what happened to her, as you'll see, and something sort of turns in him again. Something so tragic makes him think this is not my opponent. This is not who I remember, who trounced me. This is not right. And it sort of turns him a little bit. So he's not just this indiscriminate villain. He has a reason for what he does. So it's really a mission about a bad guy saving a good guy in a sense. And I thought there weren't many stories like that. And what is the gray area sort of in this type of mission, this type of story? And how does everyone change at the end? What he does is he actually travels with a vampire called Dragon. He's a psychic vampire, so not that he can read your mind, he can sort of drain your energy, take it. That's how he feeds. And the reason he's on this mission is he's one of the most powerful beings on Earth, and Valentis' nemesis is the person he loves. So we have three main characters here intertwined in an extremely dangerous land where they all have to sort of depend on the one person they fear most, who is Valentis himself. So it's a very interesting story that I'm very proud of.
So it's kind of like a mixture or warped versions of CW's The Originals meets The Rock, the Sean Connery and Nick Cage version of The Rock, not the other ones. And what's the other one I was thinking of? A bit of Entrapment with, once again, another Sean Connery classic with him and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Hello, Catherine Zeta-Jones. How you doing? So let's be honest, everyone had a crush on her back in the day. Some of us
Oh my
still
God.
do. So, hey, full disclosure, no problem. With Catherine Zeta-Jones anyway. I can't speak for everybody else, but hey, I'm just saying. But sounds good. And this book just came out recently, didn't it? Wasn't this fresh off the press?
Today, today the 28th was the official release day.
Hmm.
So ebook, hardcover, paperback, audiobook is almost finished. It's on the way. Should be on sale in the next couple of days. But it's a nice quick read. It's about 160 pages. The way I write for sure is there shouldn't be a page that's wasted. There should be no filler. So I'm all about you're in it. Every single page has something very important, very impactful, and I think it's a real great read for just about anyone. I mean, the genre it's gothic horror, steampunk, dark fantasy, but I think it's for anyone. Anyone can enjoy this.
Hmm. I wish more wise writers and Jedis would think like you. Don't waste a page. Keep it to the story. But I've read some books where there have been filler and things that don't make sense, things that don't really add up. And I'm thinking, did you not put a plan together before writing this? Like, come on, guys. It's not that hard. Just plan out your story. Put together what is known as an outline. You know, do people still use outlines? They probably do, but
That's the most important part of writing. Oh my God, you hit it right there.
you should probably
You don't
start
write an
using
outline,
start
you're
using
done.
outlines more often, writers out there. I'm just saying. Speaking of outlines, I do have something I want to bring up here for just a moment. What advice would you give to aspiring writers, David?
My biggest advice would be the advice you literally just gave, which is write an outline. Don't be afraid. I've spoken to a lot of people who would love to write something down, and I say, "Well, did you write anything down?" "No, no, I don't know how to write it down." Just throw it on a page somewhere. Outline it. Put in some notes. You know what I do? Before I write anything, even the outline, I just use my phone and I just throw down some information. What is the basic concept that I'm working with here? Why is this intriguing? Why is this something people might like? Who are the characters? And then you could erase it and start over. It doesn't matter. But just start. Throw it on the page. You could erase it tomorrow if you want or change something. But I think that's the biggest fear is how to organize it, how to start it. And starting is the most difficult. So if you can outline the beginning, first of all, I think that's a great way to get rid of that fear. And then little by little, like I said, your characters will start writing the story for you. So you'll see what I mean. But that's my advice.
Excellent advice, good sir. And once again, we are with the incredible dark fantasy author known as David V. Mammina on this episode of And I Quote. If you're just joining us, don't forget to like and share this with everyone you know. If you have any questions for David, by all means, let us know in the comments, let us know in the chat. And if you're joining us on the live or on the replay, we thank you for being here. Cannot do it without you. So, with that being said, any special memories for you from being at conventions or other events, whether you are there as a vendor or there as an attendee?
Yeah, I think you know the first convention I went to as a vendor was the New York City Comic Con. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean,
NYCC in the Javits Center? You must be out of your mind.
out of my mind, insanity. I don't know what I said. Oh, I guess I'll expose the books to all those people. Holy cow! I learned a lot from that experience. But I do remember, this is just like I was saying, how people can sort of inspire you just with a little something. The taxi driver who took me into the city, me and my friends, and into the Javits Center. He wanted to know what we were doing there because we were all dressed up for it. And he said, even if you sell one book, you should be proud of yourself for doing this, for throwing yourself out there. And I thought of it that way. Once I walked into that place, I said, I got to sell one book. And it wasn't for a little bit, and I did. I finally sold a book, and and then I sold another one, and then another one. Not many. Don't get me wrong. I didn't sell many books because there were just so many people there looking for something. They wanted to meet somebody. They wanted to get something signed. So having some author you'd never heard of there is not very attractive. But I'm very grateful for the people who did give me a shot. And what I learned in that experience and in the Comic Con was people aren't really buying your book so much as they're buying you. So how you pitch the book, how you talk to them with respect, if you show enthusiasm for the craft, if you show how much you care about other writers and other artists who are in this with you, they start to see you as someone like, wow, I might want to read this person's work, not just because I find it interesting. I like this person. I think I learned that. And I like to talk to people like you. I mean, look at how this happened. I find you really great to talk to. You're an awesome guy. So it's like, wow, okay. So it's about networking. It's about throwing yourself out there, and it's about pitching yourself. And if the person likes you, they might give your book a shot, even if they're not into the genre. So I think that Comic Con actually was my birthing into other conventions.
New York Comic Con in the middle of a Javits Center. That's, oh boy.
Memories, man.
Hmm. A lot of my friends were at the most recent one a couple weeks ago, and they had some of them had really good numbers coming in, others, bit of a struggle here and there, but they had fun nonetheless. So my hats off to the crew and the vendors who were at New York Comic Con, because that is not an easy thing to do
No.
by any stretch, by by any stretch. So, oh my gosh, I heard it was a zoo, but That's neither
Always.
here nor there. So I hear things. Plus Instagram, you can find a lot of people posting pictures of their experiences at New York Comic Con on Instagram. So yeah, feel free to do some scouting outside of the show. I don't know why I just said that.
Exactly. No, you're right though. It's one of the safer ways to experience something.
Yeah, what am I trying to say here? I'll grant you that. Who would you say are some of your favorite writers of today that are in the dark fantasy genre? Any names of today's markets stand out to you?
So I think Andrew Sapkowski, who wrote The Witcher, I know I mentioned him before, but he's just very relevant to me. He was writing in Poland, and he became sort of like a national literary hero in Poland, because he wrote using sort of like the Eastern European Slavic culture, and the monsters are so unique. They're not just a monster you've seen before, or there's always a little twist on it, and it was all like really gritty, really raw. And I really like that, and I thought Geralt of Rivia himself was such an awesome character. I liked him a lot. But yeah, I think he's one of my favorites, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I gotcha. No worries. Just thought I'd pose the question. So I do want to let you know that this episode and every episode of And I Quote is indeed powered by our good friends over there at Poddex. Now check this out. Poddex are what is known as unique interview questions and episode starting prompts in the palm of your very own hand. So whether you are a new podcaster or existing broadcaster looking to grow your audience or get more engagement, you're going to want to check out our friends over there at poddex.com. Make sure you use that promo code Ryan10. That's RYAN10 for 10% off your first order. You're not going to want to miss out on that. So Poddex wants to know, what do you consider is the most important piece of furniture in a house?
Mm. Uh, a bed. I think of a bed is good. You gotta sleep, man. Everything else is important to a degree, but get yourself a nice bed, because that's 8 hours that you're gonna be thanking yourself for.
Nothing wrong with that. Nice, comfortable bed, nice, comfortable pillows.
Oh,
Make sure
absolutely.
you got the nice pillows and the nice comforter. But with that, you can find those at a lot of different places. I just want to point that out. Poddex wants to know that many people read electronic books. Do you think that takes away from the experience?
I don't know. It depends. Some people would rather have an ebook because it gives them an experience. I mean, think of it this way: as you're reading an ebook, you can make the font bigger, you can make the background whatever you want, you can research what a word means. So in many cases, I know that ebooks sort of get a bad rap for people who really like physical books, because I like physical books too. Where am I? There I am. I like physical books too, but I also understand the value of an ebook. It's cheaper. If you're on the go, it's easier to read. So I think, if I may, Stan Lee said um, something really interesting about having a book in your hand. Do you know this quote from him? I'm
Not
gonna
off
get a
the top
little
of my head.
I'm gonna get a little naughty on this one, but he said a book is like a boob. Sure, I'd like to see it on TV, but I'd rather have one in my hand. That's what Stanley said. So Stanley himself said that
Wow.
having a book in your hand, I swear to God, he's a master of that. But yeah, to have something in your book, to smell it, to hold it, as long as you don't fold the pages over, we should be okay. Uh,
So I guess that means you're not a big proponent of dog earing the pages. You rather just use a bookmark?
yeah, I mean, if I don't care about the book, I've honestly done this. If I don't care about the book and I'm having a terrible time reading it, I will dog ear the pages and say, "Here it is." Doesn't deserve a bookmark. I hate saying this, but sometimes I've said this is a chore. So let me just. But books I really care about, I will treat very respectfully.
Oh boy. All right. The difference between a dog earring page and just bookmarking a page. Your thoughts, film at 11. Listen, I got my fair share of bookmarks here in my home. I got ones I got, which by the way, you can get bookmarks from our good friend that created the intro to this very program, which is what you're watching or listening to, known as And I Quote. jbowerart.com has tons of bookmarks available. So feel free to check them out when you get a chance. A little plug there for you, Josh, because we love you, brother. So with that being said, Podex wants to know, what is something in life you really have an appreciation for that most people don't?
Most people don't. I think I have uh, a sense of humor that maybe most people don't have. I find the humor in a lot of things. I'm serious when I have to be, but even when things get hard, I sort of think of something funny to say about it. I think of how this can be interpreted. I might say something sarcastic about it. I think that's something I have. So it's not a material thing. Um, it's something in me that I have just sort of developed over time. Just the outlook on things. I think I have that quality.
Style and profile. I respect that. What or who has made the biggest impression on your life within the last year?
Within the last year, the biggest impact on my life, I would probably say my fiance, Anne, has made the biggest impact on my life. She is aside from being just a beautiful human being inside and out, she's an incredible artist. In the book, Death or Valentis, she does the illustrations inside, and she does a great job. Yeah, the illustrations inside are fantastic. She is an incredible cook. She makes meals that you wouldn't believe. You'd think you're in a restaurant. Um, and she just makes me a better person. I think she's fantastic. So she's left a big impression on me.
Oh, look at you. Heart emojis. Well, it's all
Oh
good.
man,
It's all good. Well done, man. And congratulations on that, by the way. That is fantastic. We wish you nothing but you in the future, Mrs. The best and success moving forward. That is for sure.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, rock on, man. Rock on. So, our good friends at Podex want to know, what book do you think should be mandatory for everyone on this planet to read?
Oh, that is such a good question. Mandatory for everyone to read. That's a tough one. I got to think of something because there's some that I would recommend, but I don't know if everyone would get something from it. But I might suggest The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The Art of War is an ancient book and for which he wrote for commanders, for kings and princes. So it was a book that none of us should be reading. But now, since it's 2023, you can read it. And the art of war can be interpreted in many ways: how to win in battle, or how to use it for your own life. There's a lot of different strategies in there that you can use. For instance, speed is everything. When there's an opportunity, jump into it. Don't hesitate. Um, the art of deception. So if you're playing poker or playing baseball, and you can make tricks, you can sort of deceive your enemy. So I think the art of war is a good one to read. It'll try to change your outlook on things, and it's a book that a lot of people might not even think to read. And if I could cheat a little bit, I'd also say read banned books, books that were banned. So there's a lot of schools that ban books, and the libraries have a banned book section. And if you read them, you're saying, why was this banned? This doesn't make any sense, but go for it. If someone tells you not to read something, that's why you should probably read it, just to see what it's about.
Good points, my man. Good
Yeah.
points. Jeez, man. Getting deep here on this episode of And I Quote. It's been a heck of a ride, though. I do want to let you know that Podex is some good friends of ours out there, so make sure to visit them. So, with that being said, David, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you, good sir, for being on this episode of And I Quote. It has been educational. It has been a treasure. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and all the other wonderful things that people can say about an individual. So, if the person watching or listening to this wants to keep up to date with what you've been writing, where you're going to be appearing at, where can they follow you on social media, my good friend?
Yeah, sure. So you can find me. My website is mamminabooks.com. So that's where my name is, Mammina books.com. That pretty much has everything on there. But I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook. So you'll find me. Just type in David V. Mammina. I'm sure to pop up somewhere.
Sounds like a plan, my man. Well, we thank you for being with us. Do greatly appreciate it. My name is Ryan of Neuroculture. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RyanRPM5. Also, check out all the incredible shows we got coming your way very soon, our social media. Also, we're this close to hitting 1,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. Once we do, we're going to throw a great big live stream celebration that's going to include returning guests such as David V. Mammina is more than welcome to come back and say hi to you wonderful people out there. We're going to have surprise guests, and we're also going to have special giveaways for you, our incredible fans/subscribers, that you're going to be eligible to win and take home with you, including these prints from the art of John Pinto. Look at this bad boy. Darth Vader from Star Wars. We were talking about it earlier. Hello. We can mail this over to you. You can put it up on your wall, hang it up in your office space, whatever it may be. Who knows? Also, another print you're going to be eligible to win is this one featuring all the characters of Doctor Who. Look at all those doctors. That's a lot of doctors. Is the doctor in the building? Yes, he is, with a TARDIS. So there's that, and you're also going to be eligible to win a print from, hey, look at this fandom, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which has been blowing up the streaming services and the interwebs recently. How good that show has been with Anson Mount and company. So if you want to win these prints and have us send them to your home, you got to tell your friends about us, because they're going to tell their friends, and they'll tell their friends, and so on and so on. You know how these things go. Also, movie anniversary watch-alongs are going to be coming back in the month of November, featuring The Three Musketeers, Quantum of Solace, and Mrs. Doubtfire, among others. The Nerdy Cantina, where we discuss all things Star Wars, is on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so be sure to check that out. And also, speaking of future episodes of And I Quote, we're going to have the legendary comic book writer Mark Waid is going to be here with us on Thursday, November the 9th. He has been in the business for over 4 decades. He has written some of the most well-known stories, such as DC's Kingdom Come, Daredevil, The Man Without Fear, Star Wars, Princess Leia, as well as many, 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 many others. So he is going to be here with us on Thursday, November the 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure you get your questions ready and present them to Mr. Mark Waid on a future episode of And I Quote. With that being said, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that bell to be notified when our new videos go up or they go live. And remember, indie supports indie, and life is better when reading. Take a look.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida is leading the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Sweet dreams they placed on me inside my mind. Chance my truth, twist the past, my memories are fading fast.
high-flying action. Choose death-defying escapes. Choose spine-tingling thrills. Choose nail-biting intrigue. Now's your chance to choose the adventure. The Captain Hawkland Adventures. Available on Amazon.com.
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.